I love fragrances that make me feel pretty and dainty, delicate, sophisticated, like a lady or a woman or both at the same time. And floral fragrances have this uncanny knack for getting it just right in a way that other fragrance families can't. They're beautiful and I can't get enough of them. So I keep exploring, looking around, seeing what's out there and testing florals on my body to find magic. And in today's video, I have so many gems to share with you. This is by far my most successful sampling video ever that I've done. I picked so many winners, y'all, or maybe possibly. My standards when it comes to florals isn't great. Y'all can judge me for that. So now let's get into all of the beautiful florals I explored in the month of February, because so many of them are full bottle worthy and then some. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you love a floral as much as I do, then stick around and let's get into it.
I got friends, but my eyes on ya. Put your light to the side, love is blind for ya. I can tell what's on your mind, come get what's.
Hi, I'm Jeanique and welcome to this month's ScentXpedition, a series on my channel where I explore and sample a bunch of fragrances around a common theme. Last month it was all about niche vanillas, and this month it's all about florals, baby, because it's time. I'm ready. I was craving a good floral experience and these fragrances rocked me. I think this is the most successful month I've had in this series today. The only one that comes close is maybe the week that I did like sophisticated types of fragrances. I will link that as well, but the florals came through. And of course we have them in categories because there are always categories. They are sexy, sophisticated, and sweetheart, because those were the vibes of these perfumes. And there's one MVP among the bunch, the one that I think fits into all three categories, if that is possible. And it is low-key a kind of controversial fragrance, but I'm obsessed and I need y'all to know about it. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, you love a perfumey conversation, why not subscribe to me? I'm adorable, I'm a vibe, I talk a lot of shit. You need to come back for more. And thank you if you've come back from previous videos, I appreciate that. So now let's get into these fragrances, because vibes, excited. My pocket is already hurting, y'all. Let's get into it. If you thought I was just grouping some of these into made-up categories, you'd be wrong. I've also ranked them based on my own personal system, from favorite to least favorite, bestest to worstest. I've put them into categories and ranks for you just in case you were curious, because it's more fun to talk about it in that way. Which one's a winner? Which one's a loser? Because some of these losers, but most of these winners, love them. So we're gonna start off with the sexy fragrances, because fun and vibes. And my favorite sexy fragrance of all the ones that I tested this month, and there are three sexy ones, is Maison Crivelli's Hibiscus Mahajad. Y'all, I fell so hard. Okay, just full disclosure, this almost made it to MVP status. This kept switching off with the one that became the MVP because I fell in love with this hard. The opening of this fragrance is so intense. This is not a delicate fragrance. This starts off so intense, cool, cold almost, with this overripe sweetness that comes through really, really heavy. So what is in this fragrance, right? It is, of course, hibiscus, because hibiscus Mahajad, with some rose, nice rose, cassis, and then a bunch of warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. There is a nice ambrette, really warm, and some peppermint. Now that came out of nowhere, because why would you add peppermint to a very warm fragrance? I don't know, but it absolutely fucking works. Now here's the thing, the way I described this fragrance at the outset was like, it was hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Like initially it hits you and you're like, oh my god, that is intense. There is leather, there's warm spices, there is hibiscus, a little bit greener. It is very intensely sweet. But then it just gets really supple and juicy and soft and pretty on the inside. It is such a sexy fragrance. It starts off aggressive and then gets more sensual, the longer you wear it, it is such a vibe. It is so fun and so outgoing. It is so loud. It is so extra. The sweetness is so addictive and intoxicating, and the sweetness plus the peppermint, it is so good. I really, really enjoyed this. Now, I've said to y'all before, Maison Crivelli for me is an exciting house because it's never fucking boring, right? You either love it or hate it. For me, I found Maison Crivelli fragrances that were hate-worthy. Like I was gagging. It was so nasty, seriously. But then found other fragrances that I just fell so hard for right at the outset because it was so exciting and interesting and fun, and Hibiscus Mahajad was exactly that. The number 2 sexiest fragrance that I tested in the month of February has to be Etat Libre Jasmine and Cigarettes, and I was shocked by that because this house hasn't really impressed me all that much. It's been aight, but this one I really liked, and I was shocked by how much I liked it. I low-key believed that, or expected this fragrance to be sort of a rough rider, to have the most aggressive form of jasmine, and jasmine can be very aggressive, y'all know, and to have this really overwhelming cigarette smell, which I wanted to explore, but I was not optimistic. Y'all, they gave us the most delicate version of each thing in a way that comes together almost dainty, but very sexy as well. Now let's get into it. What is in this fragrance? It is jasmine as the main player in this fragrance. There is some apricot to sweeten everything and some tonka and amber to smooth things out. There's like a dash of cumin for a little bit of spice. And then you have all of these muskier elements. There's actual musk in here, tobacco, hay, some cedar, adding a whole lot of body, but it doesn't overwhelm the fragrance. They allow the jasmine to take center stage, and it is this very like slightly earthy, light, playful jasmine. It's not very soapy, it's not very green, it's not very heady and indolic and aggressive. It is just this really beautiful jasmine, and the cigarette in here isn't like overwhelming tobacco smells. It's almost like you've walked into a room where somebody was smoking like 30 minutes ago, and you almost have to say, has someone been smoking in here? It's just sort of like this semblance of smoke that's sort of distant and drifting away from you. It's like that, but make it perfume and a little bit drier because of the haze. You know, the image it conjured in my mind was wearing like a baby doll dress with like a leather jacket and like trucker boots. This sort of mishmash of things that maybe don't go together but presents a very specific image, a specifically sexy image, you know, like a version of sexy. Excuse me? Thank you, Etat Libre, and the fact that I've had this sample for like a year. I never thought to test it because I did not fucking care, and now I feel bad about it. My least favorite of all the sexy florals is a much beloved perfume that I can't fucking stand. I did not like this at all, but I see why other people love it and why it's a vibe for them and why it's exciting. It's just not for me personally. And it is Xerjoff's Bouquet Ideale. I could not stand it, y'all. It is basically spice on top of smoke, on top of woods, on top of amber. Where are the florals, you might ask? They have tobacco blossom and labdanum. And labdanum is the most ambery of the florals. It's basically amber, right? It can cosplay as amber in terms of what it gives. And so you don't get much of a floral element, even though it's called bouquet. They tricked us, and I'm not happy about it. When you first spray the fragrance, you get some of that floral and it gets exciting. You're like, oh, this is a fresh floral. This is lovely. This is lovely. And out of nowhere comes rushing in all of these warm spices, cinnamon, cumin, nutmeg, and they take over. And while they're playing around and completely cannibalizing all of those floral elements, we get a dose of smoke and a heavy dose of woods, and then a very warm, heavy amber. The fragrance is sexy. It is saying something. It's a little bit slinky, a little bit dark. It is a vibe if you like that kind of thing. And it gave me inspiration to try layering a similar kind of floral with cool spices like ginger and pepper and see what it gave, and the combination was fire. I have a floral layering video coming up because I need to tell y'all about it, and that combination was a vibe. And I know it's just because I don't love warm spices like that I could not enjoy this. So if you love a cinnamon note, this might be for you. If you have problems with floral, you just want a little bit of it, you might like this as well. So Bouquet Ideale, I fucking hated it, but I get why people love it and why people enjoy it. I wish it prolonged the floral experience a little while longer, dialed back all of those warm spices, basically made a brand new, completely different fragrance for me to like it. But it's well made. It is great quality. It's just not something that I wanted to wear for any length of time. So next three fragrances are the three most sophisticated, in my opinion, of the bunch, or at least they fit best in this category. Really enjoy these fragrances. I only think one of these for me personally is probably full bottle worthy, but I really did enjoy exploring all of them. The first one I want to talk about, my favorite of this batch, and the one that I think is the most full bottle worthy, and don't come for me when you hear number two, don't come for me, is Towers Phi Une Rose de Kandahar. I really loved this fragrance. I felt like it was a very modern take on rose that I was excited to wear. So it is what it sounds like. It is a rose fragrance first and foremost. There is some geranium in here to add a bit of earthiness and greenness, but it is this very moderate rose, almost classic rose that is very musky, and it feels very grown, right? So we have a fair bit of fruit in here. We have some very sweet apricot, a very fresh, tart, loud bergamot. So when you first put this on, it sort of bursts through really bright and really happy, and that sweet fruit comes through really nicely. There's also some very like smoothing, creamy elements in this. We have some nutty almond. There is some tonka bean in here, some really nice vanilla. All of those are playing really well with that rose, making this feel like it has some body to it and it isn't just like a powdery rose kind of feel. The unexpected part was all of those elements that were musky and were kind of smoky. We have ambergris, we have tobacco leaf in here, we have vetiver, I think we have some hay as well. We also have a very heavy musk. This fragrance had a lot of longevity, a lot of body, where it takes these sort of classic elements like rose and just bitch slaps it and creates something that is a lot louder, more provocative, a lot more interesting, and feels like a lot more artistic. This is your friendly reminder to subscribe and like the video because I'm dropping gems out here. Am I though? I mean, if I am, subscribe and like. If I'm not, subscribe and like. Now let's get back to the video. The number two fragrance trended here on YouTube and on TikTok. People stayed talking about how lovely it was, especially if you loved a good cherry fragrance. This was high up there for you. And I was eager to test this out, try this out, and I am glad that I did. I'm not convinced it is full bottle worthy, and we will talk about that, but I do think it is fire in a lot of ways. And it is Creed's Carmina. Yeah, this fragrance is hyped for a very good reason. The quality is beautiful, and the combination of notes is a really like fun expression of rose and cherry together. Now, at the center of this fragrance is this very big, bold, powdery rose. This fragrance starts off more serious than it ends off, but it has this really beautiful rosiness with a little bit of stank on it that makes it kind of fun. There's also some peony in here. Peony and rose go well together, and a little bit of violet, so a little bit of powderiness over everything. The main fruit note is black cherry. It is a little bit sour, a little bit sharp. It feels almost cool instead of warm, and it bursts through really sour, fresh, bright, almost aggressive at that opening. As the fragrance develops, it gets sweeter and sweeter, a little bit lighter, a little bit more delicate. But those first couple of hours, it's so bombastic and it projects so much. It's a big personality kind of fragrance. It feels grown, it feels elevated. I can understand why so many people are obsessed with this fragrance. However, Creed is charging y'all, I want to say like $300 for 30 ml. Stop it. The Tower fragrance, like I said, isn't that dissimilar. They have a very similar sort of structure, and the notes, one has cherry, one has apricot, but a lot of the same. However, the Tower is going for like $225 for 50 ml, so a much better value. So if I were to add anything to my collection, as much as I love cherry, it would be the Tower, not the Creed, but it is really nice. Somebody gave it to me. I would take it, I would wear it, and I'd be excited about it, but I'm not gonna buy it. If y'all know a dupe though, tell me. I will go buy the dupe. The number 3 fragrance did not do it for me at all. I was not here for it. It wasn't even in the running. The first two were fighting it out for number 1 and 2. This one was way in the back, basically. And it is from the brand Heely, and the name of the fragrance is Iris de Nuit. I got excited because I saw Iris in the name. I saw Nuit. I thought a nighttime Iris, a sexy Iris. I don't know. Instead, it basically smells like a spinach and arugula salad, but make it perfume, basically. So what is in this fragrance? It is Iris and violet with some angelica. Angelica is a very sophisticated type of note, so I had high hopes for that combination. We're not really getting any of that, not really. There's supposed to be some carrot seed in here for some animalic action, some ambrette, some cedar for some body and heft to the fragrance. It is very crisp, green, a little bit savory, a little bit peppery, but make it perfume. It has like a little bit of that powdery action we're getting from the Iris, but that's it. So if you like a perfumey green fragrance that smells like a salad, then this works. And as it turns out, I like a green fragrance, but I want it to be slightly more complex than this. I don't want to smell like a salad straight up. Not exactly. So I did not enjoy this in the slightest. I'm excited to try more fragrances from Heely because this was not the introduction that I wanted, because this was deeply, deeply disappointing. But I'm glad I finally tried it because I've had this sample for forever and a day when I went through my Iris phase, like, I don't know, like 8 months ago. So it's off the plate for me as far as knowing what it gives, and it doesn't, basically. This is maybe my favorite category. This is part of the reason I love floral fragrances so much, is because I want to smell like a sweetheart, be giving sweetheart constantly. And I will say, spoiler alert, every fragrance in this category, I think for me personally, is absolutely fucking full bottle worthy. I loved all of these. I was shocked. And they're also different from one another. First fragrance I want to talk about is from the brand Meleg. I think it's a Canadian brand. I could be making that up. I should be checking this and fact checking myself before talking. Just hear the name and you know what it is giving. Very cherry, rose, chocolate, patchouli. That's basically what's in the fragrance. It's cherry, rose, chocolate, patchouli with some lychee. I guess lychee couldn't fit in the name as well. I mean, they could have sandwiched it in with everything else. This fragrance feels like a day outside dancing under the sun in your best Sunday fun day dress. Like, that is the vibe. It feels youthful without feeling juvenile or young. It feels very happy, carefree. That is the vibe of this fragrance. It opens up with this very clean patchouli, almost cool kind of smell, almost minty, bursting through, really happy. That's the first thing you get. And then we get this very juicy, fresh cherry. So not like a desserty kind of cherry, but very bright, summery, like a cherry drink, cherry soda, sparkly, happy. We get a rose I did not expect. I was expecting this very young rose to come through. No, it's more of a moderate rose like you find in something like Lancôme Ideale. Something in the middle coming through, making it feel slightly more sophisticated. That chocolate is in the back, just making everything feel a little bit darker and more exciting, a little bit more mysterious, just really grounding the fragrance. The lychee helps to sweeten everything, makes it feel just a little bit more tropical, like more of a party. No, I think the thing that I really liked about this fragrance from the outset is that, I don't know, the way it is blended, you experience the notes in succession, not all at once at the same time. Like, first spray it and you get that hit of patchouli and you're like, ooh. And then you get the cherry and you're like, oh. And then you get the lychee and you're like, okay. And then the rose comes in, and after the rose, then you get that dark chocolate in succession. It's kind of an experience. It's kind of fun. It was kind of a ride. So in the number 2 spot for me was Parfums de Marly's Valaya. And I went into this test not expecting to like this at all, because fuck aldehydes, and this is a very aldehydic fragrance. I normally don't see the point of my fragrance smelling like soap or clean laundry. I could just have clean laundry. I'm not gonna do that on purpose, and I'm not gonna spend money to do that, right? Not really. But this fragrance is so fire. I understand why it is a favorite for a lot of people. Now, the way I'd mostly heard it described is that it kind of gives clean girl aesthetic vibes. I would say it's not quite, in my opinion. It's like half clean girl aesthetic girly, half cottage core girl, right? There is something sort of minimalist and chic about the fragrance, but there is kind of this carefree femininity about it at the same time that sort of meets in the middle of those things that I think is incredibly, incredibly pretty and happy and just sort of sparkly and brand new. She is her brand new self, and I love that. So this fragrance has aldehydes, like I said, fuck aldehydes. Has aldehydes, right? And it has a lot of beautiful fresh fruits. We have white peach, we have some bergamot, we have some orange. The main players in this, y'all, though, are the florals and how well they come together and how beautifully they work together. It has one of my favorite, all-time favorite floral notes is Petalia. Petalia, I describe it as like almost like a champagne feel in a fragrance. There's something kind of sparkly and bubbly about Petalia, and I cannot get enough of it. There is some Lily of the Valley, which can read soapy, or it can read green, or it can read spa-like, but it's ever so delicate in this. Now let me get an orange blossom here. That beautiful, supple orange blossom, really full and womanly and exciting all together in this fragrance. I think they're blended so incredibly well. We have some vetiver in here. We have some woodiness in the base, giving this a little bit of oomph and personality. It is clean, it is fresh, but it has this sort of bounce and liveliness to it that I did not see coming. I thought it was just gonna give me clean, straightforward, nothing else. But this is just an incredibly happy fragrance while being so understated. I think it is a vibe. Number 3 fragrance, unlike the other categories, isn't a fragrance that I'm hating on at all. I think this is as full bottle worthy as the other two. It just had very strong competition in this category this time around, and it is Hermetica's PeonyPop. Now, a lot of the reviews that I had seen of this fragrance, people didn't like it. They thought it was really basic, maybe even overpriced. Even on Fragrantica, I think it has like a 3.8 rating. People don't love this fragrance at all. I, however, fucking love it. I thought this was beautiful. The two main notes I would say coming through in this fragrance are a very soft, delicate peony and a very sweet leaning to fresh kind of raspberry. It's somewhere in the middle. It's not very tart, it's not a very sour kind of raspberry. When you first spray this fragrance on, it almost smells like a watermelon rind. This sort of watery, slight greenness, kind of freshness to it. That's what you're getting at the outset. And then it starts to build, and a lot more florals like iris and rose come through. But mostly what you're getting is this really delicate, very soft peony. And then we get this really subtle, really pretty raspberry. There's something about this fragrance that feels incredibly innocent. It feels like your first love, right? Just doe-eyed and romantic and happy and doing like cartwheels in an orchard kind of a vibe. Just really happy and unbothered. That's what this fragrance feels like. It does feel pretty young. Like I would wear this like as a 16-year-old. That is the vibe it gives. But I'd wear it now, right? I'd wear it now, but it does feel a little bit young, a little bit soft, a little bit too innocent for me, but I loved it so much I'd wear it anyway. Also, side note, it is the most complimented of all of the fragrances in this video. This is the only fragrance out of all of these that I got multiple compliments on. People stopped me and smelled me and told me how pretty I smelled. And I thought to myself, isn't that how it always goes? The best fragrance that I tested in the month of February, like I said, didn't win by a country mile because Hibiscus Mahajad kept coming for it. But ultimately, it really was the favorite for me overall. And it was Xerjoff's Herba Pura. Y'all, y'all need to know how this has me in a motherfucking chokehold. It is not normal how much I'm obsessed with this fragrance. It is not normal. I understand why people don't fuck. I understand why people don't like it. I understand. There is something kind of perplexing, even grotesque about this fragrance. It is doing things you're like, is that good? Am I crazy? What is but I was excited throughout. I was enjoying the ride, and I would love to see how this macerated and sat over time and how it shifted and changed in a collection over time. I need to know. I need to get this. I'm obsessed with this fragrance, and there's like a gold version. Do I need to try that? No, because what if it's the same but better? I don't know. I'm obsessed. I need to talk about it. There's a lot of citrus in the opening. It is sharp and it is loud. There is mandarin orange, there is bergamot, there is lemon. It is sour, it is bright, it is heavy. This fragrance has so much substance and body to it. We have some vanilla, some ambroxan, some woodiness, all coming together to create this really loud, substantial, heavy fragrance that makes all kinds of bold statements. This fragrance feels cool to the point of almost feeling metallic, so that when you are smelling this fragrance like right up and you're taking in big deep breaths of it, it's really intoxicating. But when you get whiffs of it from far away, or you just sort of move your hand in front of your face unexpectedly and you get these sort of casual like breeze and the smell of it, you're not really sure you're here for it or not, and it stays being confusing. This fragrance feels like there are a whole bunch of beautiful florals in here. I smell rose. I smell a very sort of fresh, almost spa-like green white floral like jasmine or lily of the valley, and you can't tell me nothing but peonies in here. The edges of this fragrance feel soft and rounded, as if it's made deliberately aggressive but sort of caged in almost. It is doing so much at the same time that as you're wearing this, you can't decide if you love it or hate it or both. And I really just landed in this place of really just appreciating what this fragrance was doing and how it was doing it, and how I just couldn't get enough. I wanted to sniff myself at each hour just to see what new thing was happening with it. So if you tried a Rapura, let me know what you think of it. I know that it's not for everybody, but is it for you? I did good, y'all. I tested a bunch of fragrances in the month of February, and they were fire, and so many of these are full bottle worthy, and there are only two that I would not want. You could not pay me to wear, but the rest of them, I like them. I'm interested. They're a vibe. They're a time. And they made me super happy, which is what you want your fragrances to do, to make you super happy. At least I want my fragrances to do that. My most successful scent expedition yet, second most successful, is the Sophisticated Elegant video, where I tested 18 fragrances. So of course there are a lot of gems in that one because I was testing a whole bunch of shit. But either way, I will link that video. I will link it so you can watch it if you are interested in other options other than florals, because we have all kinds of shit in that one. Check it out. Thanks so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. You are a real one for checking out this video, checking me out. Thanks for being here. I hope you come back for the next one. Like I mentioned in my last video, you should watch it. Like I mentioned in my last video, we're on a bit of a floral run. Next up is my haul. The one after that is my perfume tray video. We're doing a whole lot with florals for the next couple of videos, and I hope you stay tuned. And if you're subscribed, YouTube knows to tell you when those videos are up. Thanks again for being here. I am Jeanique. Cover me in roses and all kinds of beautiful floral petals, because I want to smell like a princess, and florals help me to smell like a motherfucking princess. And I hope my recommendations and my reviews help you to smell like your best queenie princessy version as well. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.